Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq, with daily insight on the Nasdaq-100 index, or the NDX, which is made up of 100 of the largest domestic and international non-financial innovative companies listed on the Nasdaq. The NDX has been the barometer for U.S. large cap growth and also one of the best performing indexes over the past decade and a half, not to mention one of the most liquid index ecosystems in the world. For this Wednesday afternoon, we have Ryan McCormack, factor and core equity strategist at Invesco. We're going to take a look at Nasdaq-100 levels, weekly performance. We're also going to touch on NVIDIA and the week that it's had. Ryan, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks. Let's take a look at your first chart here and see what the Nasdaq-100 did for the week.
Sure, and it's great to be here as always, Jill. Good week for QQQM and QQQ, up 2.12%. That's versus the S&P 500 up 1.09%, and S&P 500 value up 28 basis points. I think when you look at the economic news for the week, it was largely in line. You had GDP coming in at 6.4%. You had quarter-over-quarter core PCE coming in at 2.5%. Both of those met expectations. Saw a 2% decline in personal income. I think largely following the April decline after a lot of those stimulus checks were mailed out earlier this spring. Retail sales were flat. But I think that the week is kind of categorized by some renewed COVID fears. You have the Delta variant spreading, with LA County strongly recommending masks inside. You saw some of those travel and leisure names, airlines, some of the cruise names. They were hurting as you look at some of the new limitations coming out of Britain. They're seeing some spike in coronavirus cases, and there's some travel limits that have been imposed there. So anytime you see some of these concerns about a COVID resurgence, you kind of see the investors gravitating back towards these growthy names that we've seen.
And let's take a deeper dive with some sector performance.
Yeah, so we saw 6 out of 7 sectors within QQQ in positive territory for the week. The one was utilities, which was pretty much flat. But largely the returns and relative performance were driven by technology, consumer discretionary, and communication services. On the flip side, when you look at some of the more value-oriented sectors within the S&P 500, had a bit of a tough week. You had energy down over 2%. You had utilities down over 1%. Materials down 33 basis points. Now, the exception would be financials. They traded higher after the release of the Fed stress test last week. Showed all 23 banks passed rather handily, and already we've seen a number of dividend increases announced and share buybacks as these banks are looking to return additional value to the shareholder.
And let's wrap up. Talk about NVIDIA here. It's had really quite the week.
Yeah, it was. It had a great week. One of the largest contributors to the tech sector within QQQ. It was up over 6%, and 5% alone on Monday. This was after the company's proposed $40 billion acquisition of ARM from SoftBank. Was supported by Broadcom, MediaTek, and Marvell Technology, which are 3 customers of ARM. I think within the deal, there's still plenty of hurdles. The UK Competition and Markets Authority, they're going to be delivering a review. Government there has noted takeover could be a national security and infrastructure concern. Beyond that, you have the US, you have China, you have the EU are all also reviewing the deal. And that kind of comes after some commentary from Microsoft, Alphabet, and Qualcomm some months ago, where they raised some antitrust concerns about that deal, whether or not NVIDIA could raise prices or hold back supply to some of its competitors. That being said, since the announcement of the deal back on September 13th of 2020, NVIDIA has been the 5th largest contributor to QQQ performance. It is up 64.77%. I also wanted to mention, speaking of antitrust, we saw Facebook have a pretty good week. It was up by nearly 3.8% after a federal judge threw out 2 antitrust suits that were filed by the US government and as well as a group of states. The first of those suits, the judge said the FTC didn't really outline how Facebook controls the personal social networking market. And they had claimed that they controlled over 60% of the social media market. In the judge's eyes, that was a little too speculative. Beyond that, the FTC is able to refile that complaint in 30 days. And in the second suit, judge ruled that kind of this group of states waited too long to bring a suit in regards to Facebook's acquisitions of WhatsApp back in 2014, and Instagram back in 2012. But within the opinion, did note that the FTC may have some authority to file a similar suit. But by and large, a good week for QQQ companies. Some positive developments on the NVIDIA front, and certainly from Facebook's standpoint on those antitrust suits.
All right, Ryan, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.